So I just finished watching the Sony conference, and I didn't know when this thing started and when it ended. It was so all over the place. This was the most unusual conference I've seen them do in a long time, and you know, I've always kind of been very proud of Sony in the past. They've done such amazing presentations. I've always been like, wow, when they used to show like God of War, and I was blown away by the amphitheater that they were in at the time, where this starts off and they're kind of like in a small, as I said, church, and there's some lights going on, and I'm like, what? This seems so cheap looking. But then it got saved a second later with the banjo player, the creator of the soundtrack to The Last of Us, and he came in and did a song, and I really like that. I love that music for The Last of Us. Then they cut into The Last of Us, and I was blown away with the footage, the gameplay footage of Ellie running around, stabbing people, shooting people. This is some of the most violent stuff I've ever seen in a video game, and it was wonderful. It was amazing. I was looking at this footage and I was like, this is awesome. And all of a sudden, I was super excited and I was ready to go. And all of a sudden, they're like, okay guys, we're changing venues. We need everybody to get out. We're gonna cut over to outside to this desk. And I'm like, okay. And then we cut to the desk and they're just sitting there talking randomly about video games. And it just feels like it's tacked on just to fill up time. And you're like, is this a conference? It felt so amateurish. I couldn't believe it for Sony to do this. So I'm like, wow, okay. And they're talking forever, and I'm like, oh my god, let's get... We started off with good momentum, and then we didn't get anywhere. And then they cut into this samurai adventure, Ghosts of Tsushima? Is that how you pronounce it? Tsushima? That was phenomenal. I mean, the lighting, the particle effects, the weather. I was blown away by the presentation of that game. I was like, this is a must-play game for me. I couldn't believe the lighting, and the sword fighting action was amazing. The motion capture was perfect. I was really into this experience quite a lot. Then they showed a game called Control by Remedy. Looked interesting. And then all of a sudden we went dark. And I'm like, is this what I think it is? Is this what I think it is? And there's kind of a rat showing up, and you kind of like the viewpoint of the rat at first, and I'm like, what the hell? No. And then we cut into Leon Kennedy, Resident Evil 2 Remake. I honestly wish I could have got my reaction on camera, but it was one of tears, man. For any of you guys who have watched for a long time, you know that my favorite Resident Evil game of all time is Resident Evil 2. And I played it nearly 21 years ago. It's 21 years ago that came out, and they're finally doing a remaster, reboot, and it looks amazing. I was looking at the environments. I was like, this, I don't care what special edition they put out for this game, I am in. So for me, the Sony conference worked because of Resident Evil 2. If that wasn't there, I don't know if I would have been as happy with the conference as is. But what was that like for you guys when you saw that? Did you lose your shit as well? I was losing it. I was so excited. That was worth the conference for me right there. Then we got into Kingdom Hearts, and Jack Sparrow shows up, and that was really great. And it's so realistic. His character design is so realistic with Goofy and Donald and all that, and Sora. It's such a strange mix, but somehow it's so absolutely appealing, and I love seeing that footage. And then Kojima gives us Death Stranding again. It looked at first like a walking simulator, but it looks like a stealth game. It looks really amazing. They still did not show enough. It's been a few years now. They just keep teasing it and teasing it. It looks totally fucked up out of a bad nightmare. I can tell Kojima is just having so much fun with this game. He's just using all of his imagination, and he's crafting something I hope that will end up becoming really special. But at this point, all we can do is kind of watch these movies and it's kind of a bit of gameplay and wonder. Neo 2 was announced. I was really happy to see that. And then we got into the Spider-Man action. And man, this rubbed me the right way as well. I've already been looking forward to Spider-Man quite a lot. And then to see a lot of the old villains like Scorpion, the Vulture, Rhino show up. I really was loving that. I thought that was phenomenal. And then all of a sudden they announced, and this is the thing I want to say, I didn't feel they announced enough VR games. VR seems like a side thing now, rather than a front thing that they're trying to really push. In fact, even when the conference ended, I had to see one of their videos that they released separately to show all of the VR games. I don't think I missed that during the conference. They released that kind of separately as its own video. But From Software is releasing a game, and I got to read the name of it. Dursina? Something like that. I don't know what the hell it is. I have no idea at this point. They just showed a movie. We'll wait for the future and all that. But this was so confusing. All of a sudden that kind of ends and we go to outside again with the guys at the desk outside. And I'm like, oh, okay, is the conference over? And they're like, oh no, we're going to show this. And that's when they showed the VR game. I was just so confused what the fuck was going on. Like, what was going on? It felt so disjointed. It didn't feel like a full press conference. It felt like you got a little bit over here, a little bit over here, back to the desk, back inside. I don't know how the patrons were who had to go and see it live. Were they like, oh my god, I gotta leave the room and come in another room? It was, I love the ambition behind it, but just keep everybody right there. It seems to me that Sony has already blown its load in the past, showing all of its, a lot of its games that are coming out. And it felt like this year, they were just kind of showing you what we already know and just a little bit more of that. So not a lot of big reveals. A lot of people will think it's a disappointment. Resident Evil 2 saved it for me. If that wasn't there, this would have been a shit show. This would have been really bad. And look at that. No Final Fantasy VII Remake. I said today, well, maybe at the Square Enix thing, maybe they'll save it for Sony. Well, they didn't save it for Sony. They haven't saved it for anybody. That wasn't announced, a release date or anything more on that. Tokyo Game Show, that's looking like where it's going to be now. So what did you guys think of the Sony press conference? I thought it was okay. I thought it was pretty good. I liked getting Resident Evil 2. But then, other than that, it's a lot of games we've seen before. But, that's just what I'm expecting from E3 now. I'm not getting too hyped up, but there's been a few games this year that I've really enjoyed. So anyways, guys, until next time.